Dear Man Diary. Today was my first day of insert university here. I've never seen so many Asians. One of the international ones called me Bison. I said, bless you, cutie. I'm rushing for Sigma Alpha Moon Pi. I'm excited to go to Ragers, have someone to wear pastel shorts and boat shoes with, meet a baddie, order 1 natty light, 2 straws please, and make 'em bendy. We interlock toes under my Batman covers while rewatching Scarface. I love introducing chicks to cinema. I've been warned the hazing can get rough though. I don't know if I can handle being forced to drink my body's weight in jungle juice. Wake up in the emergency room, see my dad cry for the first time as he's forced to realize that he's not always gonna be there to protect me. My mother stares at her own reflection in the vending machine, contemplating if she failed as a parent. My so-called frat brothers didn't even stop partying. But that's okay, because I have the only support system I need. That's right, Suresh from Xbox customer service. Amazed. Fraternities. A long-standing collegiate tradition. So many polo shirts, looking like a cluster of Easter eggs. I just want to shove them behind a bush. Taking inspiration from ancient Greek fraternities, hence the tradition of giving these chapters Greek names, usually the first initial of a Greek motto. Modern-day fraternities evolved from literary and debate societies in 18th century universities. So the, actually brigade of that era. And I can say that, okay, because I used to do speech and debate. If you can't tell from my pursed lips and little glasses. During the first year of actual history, 1776, the first fraternity, Phi Beta Kappa, was founded at William and Mary College in Little Bonnet Central, Williamsburg, Virginia. Its name coming from the first initials of the Greek motto, if there's no body, there's no crime. Hazing as part of the rush process is not exactly a secret. Hazing is really just any ritual that involves risk, pain, or harm to gain some form of initiation. This is, for better or worse, a tried and true practice from athletic teams to the military, famously. I wouldn't be surprised if Costco started doing this with their black card holders. And they're getting strict too. If they catch you getting seconds of those free samples, they're gonna drag you out back and make you fight the staff in cage matches. Loser gets scraped off the medal. Where do you think the hot dog meat comes from? Hazing exists on a spectrum with increasingly more degrading and humiliating acts. In the case of frats, this usually consists of trials of physical endurance or resistance and public displays of humiliation. Think Diet Abu Ghraib. But these college students are actually more likely to face consequences for their actions. Most recently, the University of Iowa came under fire after police body cam footage showed what looked to be a very bizarre alleged hazing ritual where a group of shirtless pledges were found blindfolded and huddled in a basement, like some sort of live leak video.
Step over here. Why? I think it's on these people here. You need to step over here. I'll step inside. Is there anyone here who is not participating in this? I.e. a leader?
Is there anyone with any sort of physical injury?
No.
What's all over you guys?
Just water.
Just water? What's on that dude's tie?
I'm not sure if someone...
You? Come here.
Serena.
What the did I just walk into?
The 56 male pledges were covered in various liquids, including ketchup, mustard, and alcohol.
What's on your neck?
I don't know. I can't see. That looks like blood, is it? Shine your light. Is it blood?
That's what I'm asking.
I'll taste it.
No.
Okay. You got nothing.
All right.
You got fucking nothing.
Okay.
There's no fire here. There's no nothing.
Well, that's what we're here for.
There's... You guys, their shirts off. That's it.
This was actually a case from November 2024, when campus police and first responders were called to the house because of a fire alarm. That oddly belligerent, sweater-donning little peanut is Joseph Gaya, I believe. I actually don't know how to pronounce his last name, who was arrested for trying to block the officer's view of the incident. So I guess you could say that this was an alleged obstruction of police investigation, though the charges were later dropped. His voice is quite raspy. It sounds like he's about to start smoking a thin cigarette and telling me about his time in Berlin before the war. I have a feeling that his voice only sounds like that because he was yelling at these boys Full Metal Jacket style until his vocal cords just got fried. Based on the information, this was an initiation ceremony for Alpha Delta Phi. So congrats, boys. I guess they already got in. Which, I mean, makes sense because they were all 10 toes down. None of them were snitching. They already came this far. I've seen cartel videos more chipper. The frat was investigated by campus police and the Office of Student Accountability, and they were suspended in February of 2025 until July of 2029. I guess the body cam footage just wasn't made public until this past week, when it obviously went viral. Now, this has resulted in many people asking, is all of this really worth it to join a frat? I mean, look, young men want to join frats because, well, obviously they want to make friends. And these are impressionable 18-year-olds we're talking about, right? Like, they're barely adults. They want to get wasted as a collective and have someone to play 2K with. Their grandma's not gonna play with them. She thinks video games are witchcraft, and she's not entirely wrong. I'm not a fan of a lot of aspects of college life, and fraternities in particular, with the really excessive alcohol consumption and skeezy hookup culture. I'm not a fan of it, but at the same time, from the perspective of like a young 18-year-old with newfound freedom, it's not exactly shocking that they're drawn towards these organizations. Also, aesthetically, any space in which I know there are more than 2 posters of Lamborghinis offends me. It offends my aesthetic sensibilities. It really does. And you know they don't sweep up those floors. Years of accumulated alcohol. You know that those floors are sticky. You might as well be stepping on double-sided Scotch tape. I know there's people who've joined fraternities and sororities, and the process of rushing and the initiation ceremonies were not this dramatic. They weren't, making you live through an A24 horror movie. And considering the wide variety of frats, like, there's fraternities and sororities that are just like nerds that want to congregate. It's not always associated with Greek life. But even if it is, I know there's people that I personally have interacted with that actually enjoyed their sorority or frat experiences. So if you ever pledged to be in a frat or sorority, or you were in one, how common is behavior like this? Or is the process actually relatively underwhelming, which is what I imagine it actually is like? The biggest incentive to pledge, of course, is those sweet connections. Especially when you start getting into the more bougie and well-connected universities, where like the frat leaders' families were on the Mayflower and like they still own people. If you ever go to their house, like, you really need to actually go up to the people working there and say, like, blink twice if like they are keeping your passport in a locked safe upstairs. So the real benefits to joining these frats is just the connections that you can make with something like Yale's Skull and Bones Society, or any one of those secret bougie clubs. You know, the initiation for those societies is so much worse. Probably involves like a little goat and an altar, some weird symbols that you don't recognize. Pay no mind to the recording device in the corner. I mean, it will cost you your dignity and your soul, but at least in this life, the benefits will be vast. If you play your cards right, you might one day become president of like a billion-dollar company. Or maybe if you're less impressive, the president of the US, which is, like, kind of ghetto. A high-level bureaucrat is still a bureaucrat. After the 2000 election, one of these people said that to a colleague on a private jet, and then they clinked champagne glasses and cackled as they were on their way to go commit a human rights violation. But this whole basement fiasco, this is an Iowa state school. The nerve of them to think that this institution deserves this level of suffering or loyalty, being practically stripped and pelted with various substances, and no doubt being forced to chug cheap vodka, practically hand sanitizer. And for what? I mean, no shade. Actually, no, I think this is objectively true. How many, truly, like, meaningful corporate connections can you make in an Iowa State fraternity? All of this for what? The potential for one of your frat brothers to get you a middle management job? Maybe an internship at his dad's company that will get audited on your first day. You're gonna be back on LinkedIn by lunch. These are frat houses that have, like, asbestos in them. Imagine being subjected to such degradation and humiliation in a space where the architecture isn't even exquisite. A vetting process for any organization, even if it is a social one, is understandable. I get the desire to try and weed out people who you think are just not gonna be a good fit. Some people, they don't match the vibe, and this is supposed to be like a brotherhood. You should get along and have some compatibility personality-wise. Like, poking fun or ribbing in good spirits is one thing. Like, you find out that, like, they OD'd once, so you give them the nickname Narcan, Like, that's lighthearted fun. Even testing pledges for some sign of resilience or character should be required if you want your organization to have some sense of class or decorum. Nobody wants unsophisticated weenies in their social circle. I would consider a lot of these houses to be like tenement buildings for hormonal 18-year-olds with, like, Greek letters on the front. But let's be real, a lot of these institutions are not that sophisticated. These are brotherhoods, sure. I'm not denying a lot of these guys are genuine friends, but like it's a brotherhood that is forged through debauchery and sharing deodorant. But some of the situations that I'm about to describe to you, you cannot tell me this isn't just people who want to have a weird power trip. That's it. Like, they want to feel like a Bond villain menacingly stroking a white cat. This wasn't even the University of Iowa's only frat hazing controversy. The Acacia frat got suspended in 2020 after they locked pledges in the attic, like a Lifetime true crime film. And they were told they were not allowed to leave unless they drank all of the liquor in the room, which included 60 to 90 cans of beer. And you know it was like Budweiser, not Stella Artois. 2 to 3 handles of vodka and a gallon of jungle juice. Jungle juice is just a modern day equivalent of those elixirs that ancient Chinese alchemists concocted to try and gain immortality. I would say that the only difference is that this juice doesn't contain mercury or gunpowder, but I can't even be too sure of that. All of the members in question thankfully survived this ordeal, but several of them fell ill, as you'd imagine. But wait, there's more. New recruits were asked to perform various exercises in freezing cold weather while holding a 70-pound cinder block while they were being berated with demeaning and misogynistic insults. They also underwent Pythagoras' journey to Egypt, which involved being blindfolded, equipped with wet towels, had sand thrown at them, were tossed around on a tarp, and were forced to drink a mysterious concoction. Okay, Pythagoras' journey to Egypt. Okay, that's kind of clever. And you know they just named it that after the fact. Like, you just wanted to throw sand at people. This is the kind of stuff that prisoners of war would get subjected to. Andrew Losi, I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly, was a former frat boy at Dartmouth, and he describes being forced to swim in a kiddie pool full of vomit, urine, fecal matter, semen, and rotten food, among other heinous things. Who was collecting all of those fluids? This is the sort of twisted irony of these rituals, is that often you have to degrade yourself first in order to even set up these situations in which you're trying to, humiliate other people. You played yourself because you were the one dumping your turds into a kiddie pool. Ooh, someone had to clean that up after. I think I know how they make jungle juice now. These state boy schools, they can't tap into that old money WASP bloodthirst. They can only do like normie Gentile military hazing. It's a lot of physical exhaustion or, dressing up like a French maid. Most of it is just like emasculation. The old money types want you to degrade yourself in ways you couldn't have even imagined. They'll make you do spoken word, turtleneck, beret, and everything in front of your family. It's psychological, and it starts young. So by the time they're in their 40s, the only time they feel anything is when they're watching human cage matches. They're smoking commie-era Cuban cigars, saying put 10K on the Chechen. Other hazing instances that include branding, like your cattle. Tulane University, in the most stereotypical New Orleans fashion I have ever heard, had an incident where Phi Kappa Alpha conducted a Hell Night where the frat boys allegedly poured boiling water, vinegar, and crab boil on pledges after covering them in flour, wasabi, and cayenne pepper. They were then hit with eggs and balloons filled with boiling water. I am surprised that they did not waterboard them with gumbo. As you'd imagine, serious burns were sustained, felony charges were pressed, and the frat is no more. Again, because this exists on a spectrum, not all of these rituals are as physically grueling or unethical. And again, this is not unique to frats. Like, pretty much any club can engage in this sort of behavior. A guy I used to row with had a pretty crazy novice initiation at his old club. They would blindfold the first-year guys and throw them in a dark closet, which was empty except for a strobe light, a fog machine, a stereo blasting let the bodies hit the floor or something similar, and a pile of Skittles. They would then scream at the new guy to sort them into piles by color and lock him in. They'd come back in 10 minutes, and usually the kid would have some semblance of piles. At one time, they came back and the kid had just spread them out and was sitting there crying. They were shocked and started yelling at him again. What the F is this? This is garbage! And through his tears, the kid says, "I'm colorblind!" It felt pretty bad, and let him do something else. You know, they should be lucky that those strobe lights did not accidentally induce a seizure. Imagine seizuring out in a dark closet, surrounded by Skittles, not even like a good candy. Like Starbursts or something juicy. Twix. Because then you also have something to bite down on. These rituals are usually just a psychological tactic of forced bonding through trials of endurance or distress. Again, it's not unique to frats. On a more sinister level, it is meant to sort of create this sort of connective tissue with a group where you have shared trauma or shared secrets. You can tell that this is the byproduct of a bunch of rich, elitist kids from the 1800s. The secrecy, the symbols, the hushed meetings, the exclusivity, eventually just trickled down into the proletariat, backward baseball cap wearing masses. And there's enough people in that class that also desire weird power trips. But okay, let's be real, there's a very strong, well, I suffered, so you have to suffer sort of mentality here. Like, you're telling me that the only way to test a new pledge's resilience is to make him drink so much that he ends up projectile vomiting like that scene in The Exorcist? And the liquor that he drank wasn't even that color. This is a frat in Iowa! Not always, but in that specific instance. This isn't like Navy SEAL Team 6, you know, the stakes are not that high. This tactic, by the way, isn't even necessarily an effective bonding technique. According to a study published in the Journal of Evolution and Human Behavior, which was conducted on 6 sets of frat inductees, it turns out that these hazing practices did not actually increase solidarity, suggesting that hazing is not the social glue that it has long been assumed to be. Having fun was, shocker, the most effective way of increasing solidarity. Considering how secretive these institutions can be, it's hard to know how common the more extreme practices are. Also, what is even considered extreme is, you know, somewhat subjective. We mostly just have anecdotal evidence or the occasional civil lawsuit. Lethal incidents are not as common, fortunately, but they do occur. At least 333 people have passed away since 1838, with 122 of those occurring in the last 25 years alone. University of Texas in Austin leads in fatalities with 8 total. That increase could be due to there just being more people that were rushing for frats, as college admissions were higher. Perhaps the brutality of the rituals or just the sheer amount of alcohol amongst other substances being consumed increased. I'm not entirely sure. Could be the combination of all these factors. However, in the past few years, there actually has been a decrease in these instances. Now, one factor could obviously just be that social life and engagements on college campuses certainly took a nosedive during 2020 and like the following like 2 to 3 years. However, there's also other legal and cultural factors at play, especially with more highly publicized instances of people actually passing away from some of these rituals. Take the 2017 Penn State incident that resulted in the passing of 19-year-old Timothy Piazza, who after being forced to consume 18 drinks in 82 minutes during a Beta Theta Phi fraternity initiation, fell down a flight of stairs, actually fell down sort of multiple flights of stairs, and sustained internal injuries that were not treated for 12 hours. This tragedy became national news and prompted the 2018 signing of the Timothy J. Piazza Anti-Hazing Law, or TIMS Law, as it became known, providing immunity to individuals needing medical assistance as a result of hazing or those who seek help for them, and strengthening penalties for organizations that haze. And this was a measure that was taken because there are situations in which people are hesitant to call the paramedics because they're scared that they're gonna get in trouble, basically, which is why some other colleges have also enacted Good Samaritan type policies. Cases like this are tragic, but thankfully they do tend to be statistical outliers. Standard alcohol poisoning or non-fatal bodily injuries seem to be more common, with the most recent passing being a student who was rushing at Northern Arizona University. Some former hazing victims have pushed back and created their own organizations, taking initiatives to make these sort of extreme rituals less common on campuses. The internet has just made it a lot easier for people to talk about these instances. But there are still individuals who will receive pushback, especially from within the Greek system, for talking about this issue. The internet, and I mean specifically this basement incident in particular, I think has caused more of a recent pushback against these sort of practices, but I don't know if this is gonna make much of a difference on college campuses. This aspect of frat culture is so ingrained. Like, I don't know how much systemic change can be made. Again, there isn't much comprehensive data on this. It's usually just people's own personal experiences or, you know, like very extreme news headlines. So I don't know, again, if you pledged for a frat or a sorority, what was your experience? Like, did they make you do like weird stuff, or was it actually just pretty enjoyable? Or was it like, I don't even, like a Star Wars frat, and you basically just got in if you wanted to, and you didn't even like have to pledge, like they just let you in? That actually doesn't seem that bad. Regardless, let me know down below, what are your thoughts, opinions? Do you think hazing's actually good? Please give me a detailed explanation down below. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, thank you for watching. Shout out to my top patrons. If you'd like to donate to my Patreon, please click on the link in the description or down below. Thank you to my other lovely patrons. Your names should be scrolling on screen as I speak. Bye.